back and forth shit. Is that just you being competitive, like when that happens, or is it like...
I just really don't like that dude.
Why though?
Cause I just don't like him. Like I really.
The brawl between Gervonta Davis and Terence Crawford, while Tank and Lamont Roach.
The fight between Gervonta Davis and Terence Crawford, which happened while Tank and Lamont Roach were having a media event in New York, has taken the internet by storm. Terence Crawford recently opened up about what actually happened during the brawl. In doing so, he took another jab at Tank, and now the entire boxing world is eagerly waiting to see what will happen the next time these two face off.
That's
just not your cup of tea. That's just not your...
I don't like nothing about him. No, I don't like nothing about him. I just feel like, he just...
Unfortunately, a fight between Crawford and Davis seems unlikely for now. Crawford is focused on a potential super middleweight bout with Canelo Alvarez, while Davis is staying in the lightweight division. The two champions clashed last month after a comment about the Ring Magazine Awards. While their size difference makes it impossible for them to meet in the ring, that didn't stop them from throwing some jabs at each other on social media.
If we was to fight right now on the streets, I'll break your fucking neck. And that's on my kids. And you know it, I know it, in the whole world.
Right now, Davis is concentrating on his upcoming fight with Lamont Roach on March 1st, as he aims to keep his WBA lightweight title. However, Tank has shown he's always up for a verbal showdown, especially with Crawford. While Crawford is looking ahead to a potential fight with Canelo Alvarez, he also has other matters to focus on. Recently, Crawford shared that his opinions on Davis were shaped long before their back and forth in January. Their exchange last month, which started over money, eventually got personal. Though that's not unusual in combat sports, Crawford had already made up his mind about Tank well before things heated up.
If Tank get to pick his opponent, he would do it. But Tank would never come from 35 to 54.
With the history between Tank and Stevenson, it's not surprising that Crawford is backing Stevenson in this. In a recent interview with Cigar Talk, Terence Crawford opened up about Gervonta Davis when the conversation turned to Tank's tendency to challenge himself only when he can pick his opponents. The interviewer brought up their social media back and forth and asked if it was all just a matter of both men being competitive athletes at the top of their game. Crawford responded by saying his issue with Tank is more personal, explaining that he just doesn't like him. Crawford said, "Man, I just really don't like that dude. I don't like him, like I really don't like him. I don't like anything about him. I feel like he's one of those arrogant guys who hides behind his security guards and the limelight. In some situations, he wouldn't be acting like that." Despite his dislike for Davis' personality, Crawford made it clear that he respects his skills as a fighter. "He's a good fighter. I respect him as a fighter. He's got skills, power, and tremendous boxing ability. But his personality and his ways? Nah."
I'm not talking about no fighting in the ring. If me and you was to fight outside, I will break.
In a recent interview with Cigar Talk, Terence Crawford opened up about Gervonta Davis when the conversation turned to Tank's tendency to challenge himself only when he can pick his opponents. The interviewer brought up their social media back and forth and asked if it was all just a matter of both men being competitive athletes at the top of their game. Crawford responded by saying his issue with Tank is more personal, explaining that he just doesn't like him. Crawford said, "Man, I just really don't like that dude. I don't like him, like I really don't like him. I don't like anything about him. I feel like he's one of those arrogant guys who hides behind his security guards and the limelight. In some situations, he wouldn't be acting like that." Despite his dislike for Davis' personality, Crawford made it clear that he respects his skills as a fighter. "He's a good fighter. I respect him as a fighter. He's got skills, power, and tremendous boxing ability. But his personality and his ways? Nah."
This little arrogant little dude that, using what he got to shield him. Like he got a lot of security guards around him.
Crawford's compliment about Davis' boxing skills didn't seem to improve the situation, as Tank quickly fired back with a now-deleted post. He wrote, "Damn, the guy they interviewed, that raccoon, and damn the raccoon, and I'll be in New York City in 2 weeks, no security, how about that?" Another point of tension between Crawford and Davis is the rising star, Shakur Stevenson. The 27-year-old fighter is set to return this weekend at the Last Crescendo, and much of the talk has centered around the possibility of Stevenson facing off with Tank in the near future. With the history between Tank and Stevenson, it's not surprising that Crawford is backing Stevenson in this potential showdown, which would undoubtedly be one of the biggest fights of the year.
Tank know what's up. You know what I mean? He know what he up against when he fights Shakur or Keyshawn. You know what I mean? He want to fight these guys that everybody in the world know that ain't gonna give him no fight. They not mentally there. You know what I mean? They might have a little skills here.
In the same interview, Crawford shared his thoughts on how a fight between Shakur Stevenson and Tank might go down. He said, "We're going to take the personality and personal stuff out of it, but in boxing, Shakur is definitely talented. He's got that it factor, and he's respected in the sport. But Shakur is a different fighter. People might call him boring or say he can't punch, but they said the same thing about Floyd Mayweather because they are both defensive fighters. Tank won't be able to hit Shakur like he hits everyone else, and he knows that." Meanwhile, Crawford-Davis, following his recent World Championship victory, has thrown his name into the mix, adding even more heat to the rivalry. Crawford and Crawford's trainer, Brian McIntyre, have both called out Gervonta Davis. As for Stevenson, he faced a setback when his opponent, Floyd Schofield, pulled out of their upcoming fight just days before it was scheduled due to an illness.
Honestly, I've been thinking that since the fight started. I didn't really think it was going to be a possibility they was going to accept the fight. So then when they accept the fight, they surprised me there. But then when they didn't show up to the press conference, I kind of had a...
Shakur Stevenson will still take part in the big pay-per-view event in Saudi Arabia on February 22nd, though his opponent has changed. Instead of facing Floyd Schofield, Stevenson will now defend his WBC World Lightweight title against Josh Padley. Padley, an English fighter with a 1-1-5 record, has won 3 of his last 4 bouts by knockout. He's coming off a big win over Mark Chamberlain by unanimous decision and will be looking for his first world title. Padley passed his weight check on Wednesday, just 4 days before the new title fight. When asked about Schofield pulling out of the fight, Stevenson speculated that weight issues were likely the cause. "I think this kid was struggling to make the weight class," he said. "He probably had weight issues, and I think that was probably the issue." But instead of saying that, they came up with all types of crazy stuff. Stevenson expressed disappointment over the cancellation, adding that while he gave Schofield the opportunity to fight him, it felt like the challenger slapped him in the face by withdrawing.
I got a question for you, Tank. At 147, how does a fight with you and Terence Crawford look? 147? 147. I tapped that.
Crawford also mentioned that he wanted to give Schofield the chance to make some big money with the fight, showing a bit of generosity despite the disappointment. In the past, things between Terence Crawford and Gervonta Davis have gotten so heated that Crawford even discussed the possibility of a fight with Tank during an appearance on The Breakfast Club, a popular morning radio show on New York's Power 105.1 FM. While Crawford had never been defeated, let alone stopped, Tank boldly predicted that he would take down the 3-weight world champion by knockout if they ever squared off in the ring.
Ken, you know he's going to sleep. I already know. I already know he ain't got no chance. I already know he is.
He said no chance.
I got round 5.
When you look at all the great fighters, they get called out by everyone from different weight classes, so it's nothing new, Crawford said. Everybody talks about what they're going to do, but Tank is in his weight class for a reason. I don't see him moving up to 147 to face me anytime soon. He's just talking. Crawford shared his thoughts with co-hosts Charlemagne Tha God and DJ Envy, making it clear that Tank's words were nothing to worry about.
Gervonta Davis speaking about you. Is that ever a possible fight?
Yeah, if he want to,
Crawford acknowledged that Tank has the confidence in himself, believing he can knock out anyone after dominating his opponents. He's been knocking out all these fighters he's faced, so no knock on Tank, Crawford said. But there are definitely levels to this. If he moves up to 147 thinking he's just going to knock me out, he's in for a surprise. Davis made a statement in his last fight, dropping Garcia twice, once in the 2nd round and again in the 7th, on his way to a win at the Showtime pay-per-view event on April 22nd at T-Mobile Arena. However, Crawford, 35, has been a different force in the welterweight division. Since moving up from 140 pounds 5 years ago, he has knocked out or technically stopped every single one of his 8 welterweight opponents, defending his IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO titles along the way.
There to be great. He can be like all the other fighters that moving up 2 weight classes and, daring to be great.
You would fight him.
Man, tell
Crawford made history by sending Errol Spence to the canvas for the first time in Spence's 10-year pro career during the 2nd round, and then scoring 2 more knockdowns in the 7th round before winning by technical knockout in the 9th. Crawford, from Omaha, stands nearly 3 inches taller than Davis, who has knocked out 93% of his opponents in his career. Crawford pointed out that he likely wouldn't get the credit he deserves if he defeated Davis, as the fight would require Tank to move up 2 weight classes. Still, Crawford admitted that the size of the purse would be enough to convince him to take the fight if it were offered.
Come up there.
He got to come to win 54.
He said I got a glass chin. So tell him come and touch it.
Wow.
Crawford acknowledged that he'd stay at 147 pounds to fight Davis because it would be a big money fight. It's a big money fight, you know, but then what? Everybody's just going to say he was too small, Crawford said. They'll say, oh man, you beat up a little guy who fights at 135. Tank's like 5 feet 5 inches, he's a little guy. Yeah, he can punch, but in his weight class. I'm not saying he can't punch in any weight class, because we've seen it. But what kind of recognition am I going to get for beating Tank? A lot of people don't realize 135 and 147 is a huge jump, almost 20 pounds, well, 12 pounds, it's a big jump. Surprisingly, Crawford is now preparing to make the same jump that he once teased Davis about. On the Joe Rogan Experience Crawford discussed his future plans, including a potential fight with Canelo Alvarez. It's great, this is my era, and I'm taking it. Ain't nobody gonna stop me, he said with confidence. Now that I've switched gears, I know I want to fight Canelo. I've always said that's a big step, but for a person to move up 3 weight classes from 147 to 168 pounds and win, to become undisputed, what can they say? Crawford continued, 3-time undisputed champion, and the smaller fighter that went up 3 weight divisions to conquer one of the baddest men out there, who's been doing it probably longer than.
Said that, you know why I said that? Because he was already talking like he was back in Devin. Like, Devin's my guy, like, all right, cool. Y'all want me to fight over that? Send me something first.
Yeah.
Send me something first.
Right.
I don't got to fight. You know why fighters going over there? Because they can't sell here. I can sell here.